This will be your 15-minute video clip on the fourth element in the marketing mix, which is place. I don't expect that you will read or need to read any of Chapter 15 at all, and simply listening to this and taking some notes on the slides that I will give you in class will be sufficient. Remember that place as the fourth P refers to a company's distribution channels, and we have drawn this since the first week of class in terms of a supply chain, where that is the diagram that traces the flow of product from producer to consumer. Most recently, we've talked about the importance of the outsourcing of manufacturing with respect to much of the ethical dilemma related to poor factory conditions in Asia. Outsourcing is common, and we mentioned how there is a new field of social auditing where companies are relying on auditors to verify the safety of their outsourced factories. In this particular slideshow, I will be focusing primarily on the downstream movement of the goods once the manufacturer has produced them. This second slide that says supply chain management, the final bullet talks about distribution channels, which is the place element of marketing. Here is a sample picture of a supply chain that highlights again the flow of product from upstream raw materials and ingredients to downstream end users. We've talked quite a bit about distribution channels throughout our semester. Consider the following. One thing we've talked about and done some in-class role plays is the difference between the manufacturer's objectives and the retailer's objectives. Manufacturers are trying to differentiate their products against competitors, and their focus is ensuring that a customer buys their brand rather than a competitor's. Retailers, on the other hand, are trying to differentiate their stores against other stores, and their focus is ensuring that customers shop at their specific store regardless of which brand that customer buys. One thing we saw in our RBK video is that manufacturers such as Reebok often tailor particular shoes to give retailers a special incentive to push their particular product. They might give an exclusive release or an exclusive shoe to Foot Locker that's not available at other retailers such as JCPenney or Shopko. In addition to conflict between manufacturers and retailers, distribution channels also have conflict between various types of retail partners. For example, many shopping goods, which are high involvement goods that consumers like to go to a handful of retail stores to shop around, think about bicycles, snowboards, computers. And a big characteristic of retail differentiation is on the service that their stores provide and the brands they carry. Those types of specialty retailers in a market, think about places like the Trailhead, are typically very unhappy when similar products are available at mass merchant retailers such as Costco. In fact, if Costco ends up carrying a shopping product such as a particular computer, say Apple, or a particular high-end apparel such as Patagonia, local retailers are very, very angry at the manufacturer, and they call up their sales rep and will say, get control of your distribution channel. because specialty retailers are not able to compete on price with the big box stores. Conflict also exists in distribution channels when a manufacturer has their own channel in a market, and then they also rely on independent retailers. This is less common in a place like Montana because our population base is lower. But think about Apple outlet stores or Nike Town. Retailers find that they're then competing with their vendors, and this happens online as well. Many retailers are unhappy when they have to compete with a manufacturer's own website. Think HP.com. And it's one of the main reasons when customers try to shop online and they go to a website, and rather than being able to buy the product online, what the manufacturer's website forces a customer to do is type in a zip code to find the retailer nearest you. This is specifically designed to minimize conflict between a manufacturer's independent retailers and their own .com channels. These are interesting manifestations of the importance in managing distribution channels strategically. Distribution channels provide many functions. Please go back and review from Chapter 1, Time, Place, and Ownership Utility. In addition, distribution channels provide a number of functions. I'll come to one of those functions on the next slide in a moment, which essentially is servicing the items for a manufacturer in a local market area. Distribution channels also create efficiency. One of the primary types of efficiencies that we've talked about is contact efficiency. I have a slide on contact efficiency in a minute. Breaking bulk means customers don't want to have to buy a pallet load of toilet paper. They want packs of 4. So retailers will buy pallet loads of items and sell them to customers in the amount that they desire. This is especially important in base of the pyramid markets where customers often can't afford to buy more than one item or even part of an item. Cigarettes are actually sold individually. Toothpaste is sold in individual single-use satchels. Creating assortment means customers don't want to have to go to one store for meat, one store for bread, and another store for fruit. Unlike in Europe, where it's fairly common to have specialty vendors, in the United States, retailers actually buy from multiple vendors to create assortments or variety so customers can get one-stop shopping. This slide demonstrates the power of contact efficiency in a distribution channel. We have previously described how important contact efficiency is because without a retailer in a market area, all manufacturers would have to reach all customers, which becomes extremely unwieldy. Simply adding in one retailer can diminish the number of transactions in a marketplace from 5 times 5 in the case of 5 manufacturers and 5 customers to 5 plus 5. Going from 25 transactions down to 10 provides efficiency in the marketplace. Next slide. As I mentioned previously, retailers also perform important functions such as service, and oftentimes they provide financing as well. Next slide. Customers often think that if they could just get rid of the middleman, they could pay less for goods. On the face of this statement, it is true. However, as you see at the top of this slide, you can eliminate the intermediary or the middleman, but you can't eliminate the function the middleman performs. Think about IKEA, for example. You can go to IKEA, but you load your own boxes and you assemble your own goods. And although you pay a lower price, What customers do in that case is they actually perform the functions that other intermediaries would charge customers to perform. So once we eliminate the intermediary in a distribution channel, somebody has to perform the functions that those intermediaries previously performed. You might get a lower price, but your hassle factor goes up. The internet has created quite a bit of disruption in a variety of industries. For example, think about movies and music. Even in the case of tangible goods, e-commerce has created radical changes. And among these, many companies are thinking that they can bypass their traditional intermediaries to sell directly to customers. And the fact is, although this is technically possible, many manufacturers also find that running an online store requires a different set of competencies that they hadn't previously considered, such as selling individual units and shipping to individual customers rather than in bulk, and servicing and handling technical supporting questions for individual customers rather than relying on partners to solve that problem. So once again, you can certainly bypass the intermediary, but the fact is somebody has to perform those functions. The primary terminology in distribution channels is whether a channel is direct or indirect. Direct channels are company-owned channels where they rely on their own sales reps or company-owned stores to reach their customers. This is true in the case of many large business-to-business companies. Apple also has its own retail stores and own website. Indirect channels are independent channel intermediaries that are retailers who carry other vendors' products as well. The next picture shows a diagram of either direct channels or indirect channels. Some channels have a variety of different levels, particularly those that go to export markets and rely on exporters and importers. Distribution has interesting intersections with other P's in the marketing mix. We've talked extensively in our pricing discussion about how important it is to consider markups that channel members take in determining price. Distribution helps in positioning or creating an image of the company in the market. And as we're going to come to later in this slide presentation, the nature of the product does influence distribution decisions as well. We've previously also talked about slotting allowances from Chapter 13 and spiffs, which are those cash payments that manufacturers pay to retail salespeople to push their specific brand. Next slide. The most important terminology that students leaving marketing need to know about distribution are the phrases exclusive distribution, selective distribution, or intensive distribution. And these three types of distribution refer to intensity or penetration in the marketplace, also known as coverage. Exclusive is just as it appears here on the slide, one intermediary in a market area. This would be designed, for example, for the Lexus dealer, where if you want Lexus, you actually have to go to Spokane. And this is typically used for specialty products, and it's designed to support a premium price and premium image in the market. Customers of these products expect high service, and for a retailer to provide high service, they have to make a high margin. At the other end of the continuum is intensive distribution, which is many intermediaries in a market area. This is driven by consumer behavior, where for convenience goods that are frequently purchased consumables, you expect to be able to buy those goods at grocery stores, C-stores, things like milk, eggs, bread, soda, beer. And you see lots of competition, and there's often price deals. In the middle of this continuum is selective distribution, where there is a handful of intermediaries in a market area. These are typically used for high-involvement goods where consumers need to either try on or get advice or input from a salesperson prior to purchase. And the selective distribution is usually done on a contract basis that requires some level of support and oftentimes follows a manufacturer's suggested retail price guideline. Next slide. This essentially demonstrates what factors lead a company more towards intensive or exclusive distribution. Next slide. One of the most important trends in distribution is called multi-channel marketing, which refers to a mix of online and offline channels. These are sometimes called brick-and-click distribution channels. Customers today want what is called harmonized distribution, which means they want the convenience of either ordering online and picking up in the store or getting an order delivered to their house, but if it doesn't fit, returning it to a local store. Or if they're shopping in-store and can't find the right size, they want to be able to order it online and have it delivered. This is called multi-channel marketing, and it's critical for today's best practices distribution. That is all we will be covering on distribution for the final.